So one of the best values in gaming that a lot of people will agree with is Game Pass. Game Pass is something that Microsoft has following through several different systems, right? You can use it for streaming on your phone. You can play it on your Xbox One. You can play it on your new Xbox Series system. You can use it on your PC even now. So Microsoft has been doing a lot to bolster and then push that service out there to people. And Sony has been trying to figure out, I would say, how to deal with Game Pass, because we are going into a future now that it seems where these companies want subscription services. And there is a lot of concern that we get to a point where you're picking out games and where to put your money is like trying to figure out like a cable service where you have all these channels on a listing and you got to pick here, 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 and here, and your monthly bill ends up being this big thing anyway. But Game Pass, at least on its own, I would say right now is probably worth the money, especially if you're not someone who has the ability to buy several games every single month. There's a lot of value there. But Sony has a few things right now that they are working on, and now Jim Ryan is even mentioning something else coming down the pipeline, and it kind of caught me off guard a little bit. I thought we'd talk about it here today. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure the like button helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave Plus channel, make sure you subscribe down below. So if we go over here, this was an interview with TASS, and Jim Ryan talks about a few things here. Talks about, by the way, the cross-generation for the PS4 and the PS5, talking about supporting the PS4 to 2022. So that means that we're going to be looking at some new games that Sony shows us now going forward over the next couple of years. And we do have to ask the question of, is it also on the PlayStation 4 or is this just a PlayStation 5 game? We're still waiting to hear information about that for God of War, by the way. That might be a PS4 game to go along with the PS5 release. So remember that one. But over here, he does talk about Game Pass. After it is brought up, they say, how will you respond to Microsoft's Game Pass? In turn, Jim Ryan says, there's actually news to come, but just not today. We have PlayStation Now, which is our subscription service, and that is available in a number of markets. What's funny then is this is the Russian news agency. They follow up that question immediately with, why isn't PlayStation Now available in Russia? Oh, okay, so you have PlayStation Now, just not here. And Jim Ryan really does say a lot of stuff, doesn't he? Jim Ryan's been criticized quite a bit, especially recently with the whole thing with the PS4 and the PS5 and like Spider-Man appearing to just be a PS5 game, and then all of a sudden it's also a PS4 game. Horizon Forbidden West, some people still don't know that that is also a PS4 game. So Sony kind of was quiet as Microsoft was getting a beat down from people about being so into the idea of cross-gen for the Xbox One and the Series X and the S, and Sony's really doing a lot of the same. It's hard to ignore, to be fair, the 120 million or so PlayStation 4 owners. They just weren't very upfront about it when they were building hype for their next-gen PS5 system. Now, let's also quickly talk about what he is referring to, which is PlayStation Now, because I've realized this is a service that many people are not as familiar with because Sony doesn't push it very much. And a lot of that has to do with it initially being a streaming service and seemingly something that Sony was just kind of playing around with. But now you can just download the games for PlayStation. Now here, for example, is the menu on the PlayStation 5, and they have quite a few games on here. In fact, something that they've occasionally mentioned, but they haven't pushed too hard, is that there are more games on PlayStation Now by a good amount, actually, versus Game Pass. I mean, they've dropped things like Hitman 2's on here, Rage 2, Medieval just quietly showed up on here, Resident Evil Biohazard, and they have also several PS3 games on here. Their biggest problem, however, is that the PS3 games have to be streamed. So that's something that even I'm like the streaming for PlayStation Now is not very good. It really is not. It's generally fairly low resolution. The responsiveness is pretty poor, but they continue to add more and more games onto PlayStation Now that you can just download and play locally, which is great. But something else that's not mentioned much is that they also have PlayStation 2 games on here. And I almost wonder if Jim Ryan is talking more about going through kind of the back catalog even further, because the idea with these PS2 games is that they had to be developed seemingly specifically for the PlayStation to the point where it's not really being emulated. They just kind of fixed it up so it works with the current hardware here. And you just download them. Like Rogue Galaxy here, I downloaded, you would hit play, and it'll jump right in locally. You're not streaming these PS2 games. That's something that a lot of people are still unaware of, is that there are PS2 games you can just download and play off of PlayStation Now. And it keeps, again, gets me back to the point of Sony really should have thought more about backwards compatibility overall with the PlayStation 5, especially with just kind of the legacy of the PlayStation brand. Now, the other possibility that Jim Ryan could be kind of mentioning is this new thing they're trying here with the PlayStation 5, and that is the PlayStation Plus collection. I almost wonder if, as of now, for the PS5, early adopters, of course, this is something that is there at launch. I feel like just to add a little extra value to your purchase for the PlayStation 5, because let's face it, I think the big launch game is Demon's Souls as an exclusive, and that's a game that's just not going to be for everyone. Miles Morales is great, but it's also on the PS4. So the idea of just having some of these games here immediately that you can download and play, and some of them have enhancements like Days Gone that's just 60 frames per second now, like, that there is some value there. It's pretty cool to just see that show up. And this does kind of almost give me like a bit of a Game Pass vibe, but there is one thing they are missing here, and that's their new games. Like, if a brand new game comes out, Horizon Forbidden West, would that make it to this PlayStation Plus collection? I don't think it would, considering they had a hard time just doing God of War, well, like last year, where they had it for like a couple of months. It just showed up on the service and then it went away, and now it's back with the PlayStation Plus collection. That felt like, to me, they were testing the waters. Like, can they do a year of selling the game, and then after that, can they just add it into the Sony Vault, and it's a thing that you pay $10 a month for, and you have games that are not too old that you might still have maybe missed out on and you can start playing right away. It's this weird tightrope that Sony is trying to walk right now, because they have to figure out if by adding it to the service, if it would devalue their overall IP and their selling power when it comes to the PlayStation brand, and would they then also make enough money from the service to turn around and continue pouring money into development? Because when games like Last of Us Part 2, which take like an entire generation to create, is it worth it then if it's going into a subscription service that costs $10 a month? So there's a lot of balancing to go on here and a lot of numbers to crunch to figure out. But it does sound like, at least now, Sony sees that Game Pass is making some headway here, and it seems to be at least working for Microsoft. So I do think Sony is going to try to revamp either the PlayStation Plus collection or PlayStation Now, make it more compelling and maybe add some extra value. If it's the PlayStation Plus collection, I think it will break off from here and end up being its own subscription service with extra games, maybe even newer ones. Or maybe Jim Ryan just went into full PR mode, just started saying a bunch of random things like he has over the past year and a half or so. Thanks, guys, for watching. Let me know what you think about this one, though, down below, and I'll see you guys next time.